Hello, everyone. Alec Baldwin seeks to avoid liability. Now, if you remember this, recall this story where he had a gun, he was on set, and the gun went off, and there was some pointing, finger pointing about who was responsible and who was not responsible for checking the gun to see if the gun was loaded. So he gave his most detailed account yet of fatally shooting a cinematographer on the set of the film Rust last year in an arbitration demand that his lawyers filed Friday against his fellow producers, claiming that his contract protected him from financial responsibility in her death and seeking coverage of his legal fees. Now, this is what his attorneys are doing on behalf of him, but we still have a wife, a mother, you know, she was an employee that, a human being, a woman that is no longer alive because of a fatal shooting on the set of filming Rust. Okay. So Baldwin has been named in several lawsuits seeking damages since he shot and killed the cinematographer Helena Hutchins on October 21st. If you recall, this happened last year in New Mexico while practicing for a scene that required him to draw a gun. Now, the filing said that he was not responsible for her death since he had been assured that the gun did not contain any live ammunition and because he was not responsible for checking the ammunition or for firearm safety on the set. Now, I don't know. I kind of, like I read the article back and forth. I listened to it, on the news, and I'm just not sure why anyone would not check the gun, when you're dealing with a real gun, or something. Or you would just check the gun to make sure there was no live ammunition. Just being careful over and over, just really taking time to be careful. And it seemed like nobody really took the time to be careful. They all just made assumptions that the gun was not loaded. And it's really sad because we do have Miss Helena Hutchins. She's no longer with us. And not just when I say with us, I mean she's not here. She's not alive anymore. And so the filing provided new details of Baldwin's role as a producer of Rust, a production some former crew members claim in lawsuits has sacrificed safety by cutting costs. While while Baldwin was involved in creative matters, the filing said others had authority over hiring and budgets. Baldwin was to be paid $250,000 to star in the movie and act as a producer, it said, but he gave back $100,000 as an investment in the film. And that's very noble of him, in that case, that he gave the money back. And the filing contained text messages that Baldwin had exchanged with Matthew Hutchins, the widower of the slain cinematographer, which showed how their relationship had deteriorated over time. From mutual expressions of condolence and support in the immediate aftermath of the shooting to the pointed wrongful death lawsuit Hutchins filed against Baldwin this year. It provided a vivid account of the fatal shooting on the New Mexico film set, which took place after lunch as Baldwin rehearsed a scene inside a church in which his character, Harland Rust, is cornered and draws his gun. Now, you would think that the relationship would go sour, especially when he was friends with the Hutchins, and he killed this man's wife. Um, and I'm not saying he deliberately did it, but it happened. The gun went off. No one checked it. And so I could see where, in the beginning, there's some condolences. I'm so sorry, you know, uh, you know, and the husband feeling compelled to accept the apology and the condolences at the time. But as time went on, words got out, interviews were done, and some things just didn't set right, obviously with Mr. Hutchins. And then things are being blamed on Alec Baldwin, and he's trying to protect his assets and his financial, you know, financial. So, you know, now look at what we have going on here. You know, relationship has deteriorated. And so Russ cocked quietly now. The filing quotes the direction in the script as his pursuers approach. Then shortly after that, quotes exploding. Hutchins told Baldwin how to position the gun, the filing said. She directed Baldwin to hold the gun higher to a point where it was directed toward her, it said. She was looking carefully at the monitor and then at Baldwin and then back again as she gave these instructions. In giving and following these instructions, Hutchins and Baldwin shared a core vital belief that the gun was cold and contained no live rounds. Baldwin then asked Hutchins if she wanted him to pull back the hammer, as the script instructed. And she said yes, the filing said. Baldwin then pulled back the hammer, but not far enough to actually cock the gun, it said. When Baldwin let go of the hammer, the gun went off. Now, can you imagine being on that set and the gun goes off and quite naturally they're going to be looking to place blame. And you know, in this day and age, it's no longer, I'm so sorry, this is an accident, I didn't mean to do it. Tears, cries, all the whole nine, you know, yards of things that happen, you know, in sympathy and sorrow. And people walk away and still have a good support system. Nowadays, people don't just walk away, they sue. Regardless of how it happened, why it happened, if it was an accident, people sue regardless. They sue. That's just how it is in this climate. In this day and age, people are going to sue regardless if you didn't mean to do it or not. People are looking to hold people accountable. And money is usually the answer to a lot of people's problems when things happen. Even though it doesn't bring the person back, but people are still looking for some type of monetary compensation. And so it went on to describe the confusion and horror after the shooting as Hutchins was flown by helicopter to a hospital where she was later pronounced dead. It was later at the end of his interview with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office that Baldwin was shown a photograph of the projectile that had passed through Hutchins and then wounded the film's director, Joel Souza, the filing said. Baldwin recognized the object as a live bullet, and he finally began to comprehend what had transpired on the set of Rust that day. It said he was shocked. In the filing, Baldwin's lawyer, Luke Nikas, said a clause Baldwin and his company had signed in his contract with Rust Movie Productions, LLC, means he bears no financial responsibility for legal fees or claims arising out of the death. So you know what LLC is, limited liability, company. So the filing with the JAMS Private Arbitration Service seeks to enforce the clause. The document names Rust Movie Productions, LLC, and Ryan Smith, one of the other producers, as the respondents in the claim. Someone is culpable for chambering the live round that led to this horrific tragedy. And it is someone other than Baldwin, Nikas wrote in the claim, portraying Baldwin as a victim who trusted others to do their jobs and is haunted by Hutchins' death. And I don't doubt that he probably is haunted by that. I mean, can you imagine this, you pulling a trigger or whatever you pull, the hammer as they call it, and this person, the gun goes off and that person is deceased and and you were the one that did it, but you didn't mean to do it. I don't believe that he meant to do it, but I do believe it's a lot of finger pointing right now. And the finger pointing, Baldwin, I think, is facing, a lot of he's haunted, he's haunted by what happened. I do believe that by Hutchins' death, but also look at the Matthew Hutchins and his family, his children. He lost his wife, friend, mother, his children lost a friend, and wife, excuse me, and his children lost a mother, and he's hurting also. So looking at these two situations and other people trying to place blame, it's really like this is a very complex situation. I would never want to be in a situation like this because it's very complex. But it says this is a rare instance when the system broke down, which the system failed. It failed Miss Hutchins. It failed Alec Baldwin. Actually, it failed all of them because somewhere somebody didn't check to see if that gun was not loaded or with a live round in it. So there's a lot going on here. A lot of going on here. A very complex situation here. And this is a rare instance when the system broke down and someone should be held legally culpable for the tragic consequences. For the tragic consequences. But they're saying, Nika's is saying that that person is not Alec Baldwin. He is not the one that should be held accountable. So representatives of Russ Movie Productions LLC and a lawyer for Smith did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Nikas described in a claim how in the weeks after the fatal shooting, Baldwin had sought to persuade the cast and crew of Russ to finish the film to honor Hutchins, outlining a plan in which an insurance payout and the film's profits would go to a settlement for Matthew Hutchins and the couple's 9-year-old son. Shortly after the shooting, the filing said Baldwin had breakfast in Santa Fe with Matthews, Hutchins, and his son. At the meeting, the filing said Hutchins hugged Baldwin and told him, "I guess we're going to go through this together." A lawyer for Hutchins did not immediately comment, but the relationship, which continued through a series of texts and calls, broke down in the aftermath of a television interview Baldwin gave in December in which he denied responsibility for Hutchins' death. And that's where it looks like it broke down at because Alec Baldwin denied being responsible. When I didn't see the interview, but I'm wondering by him saying that, well, I'm not responsible for her death. That is probably a stab in the heart, a punch in the stomach, or far worse, you know what I mean, to Mr. Hutchins, Matthew Hutchins. And I think that for Alec Baldwin, he wants to say he's not responsible for the death, but that's kind of insensitive, being that you are responsible for her death because you are the one holding the item. You're the one that pulled the hammer. So you are responsible. Now, is there other people responsible for, not checking and all of that? There's a big possibility. And I'm not saying that Alec Baldwin is responsible because he intentionally meant to do it, in my opinion. He's responsible because he did do it. Whether he intentionally meant to do it or not, he still was the one that did it. So I can see Mr. Hutchins' point of view, where he would say, well, why would you get on an interview and tell the public you're not responsible for my wife's death, for Helena's death, when you did do it? Now, whether you intentionally did it or not is a whole different story, but you still did it because you were the one that did it. No one else did it but you, because you pulled that hammer back and you shot. And yes, it happened. But is there other people responsible? More than likely, I would say probably yes. But, I don't know. It's very complex. Like I said, you're getting on an interview and you're saying, I'm not responsible for her death. In reality, you are responsible, but then again, how is it going to play out, and how are they going to handle this complex situation? So Matthew Hutchins later filed a lawsuit against Baldwin and followed it by giving his own television interview on NBC's Today Show in February, in which he described being angered by Baldwin's deflection of blame. He was deflecting. And I think we have to look at the whole situation. If I take my phone and it's in my hand and I accidentally say I'm on my phone, but I'm standing over someone trying to talk with a phone in my hand, and I get distracted because someone calls my name, and I turn around and I drop the phone and it hits somebody in the head, am I responsible for hitting them in their head with the phone? Yes. Did I mean to do it? No. It wasn't intentional, but I still did it. And so, to say the least, I would say, well, I'm not responsible for hitting you in the head with that phone because somebody else shouldn't have been calling my name, So I would say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to drop my phone and hit you in your head. But to get on, national TV or something and do an interview and go public and deny responsibility, I can see Mr. Hutchins' part. So Alec Baldwin, you have to be careful about your words that you use, because now you do have a lawsuit against you, and now that relationship that you had with the Hutchins is very, very strained. It's actually broken down. And so, although a number of crew members have described the set as unsafe and several quit shortly before the fatal shooting, the filing said that Baldwin had not heard about or observed any safety problems on the set. And in the filing, Baldwin sought to rebut several claims that Matthew Hutchins and some Rust crew members had made in lawsuits and in comments to the news media. 2 lawsuits filed by crew members have claimed that Baldwin should have checked that the gun was safe to handle, even after he had received an assurance from the film's first assistant director that it was. But the new filing said that during firearm training for the film, the movie's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, had told Baldwin that it was her job to check the gun, not his. Wow. See, that's what I'm saying. There's probably other people that are responsible, even though they weren't the one that actually pulled the trigger. Excuse me. So I don't know. I don't believe that Baldwin should be the only one held accountable. Okay. But again, you have to be careful what you say when you get out here on these interviews, because it's like you're trying to protect yourself and you're not being, sensitive, about the fact that this man did lose his wife and his son lost the mother, and things like that. So that instruction was similar to what he had been told before. It said, asked for a comment. A lawyer from Gutierrez-Reed said he was reviewing the filing. An actor cannot rule that a gun is safe, the filing said. That is the responsibility of other people on the set. And while a lawsuit filed by Serge Savetnoy, the film's gaffer, claimed that the movie's producers had declined requests for weapons training days because they were trying to save money. Remember, they were trying to save money, cut costs. So maybe that could be the reason why they declined the weapons training days, allegedly. And Gutierrez-Reed said that Baldwin had failed to attend cross-draw training. Baldwin's filing says that he had inquired about lessons about a month before he showed up on set, and that he had training once he had arrived. Now, he got the training right then and there? Okay, so the demand also claims that Mamie Mitchell, the script supervisor, had told Baldwin shortly after the fatal shooting, you realize you're not responsible for any of what happened in there, don't you? See, they already was talking. See how quick people were talking? Mitchell is now suing Baldwin and other producers, blaming him for failing to check whether the gun he was handling was loaded. But first he told him he wasn't responsible. You see, these emotions get to running and people say things emotionally instead of just being quiet. They usually say that don't accept blame for anything because you need to do the investigation needs to be done. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people are doing a lot of talking, it sounds like. So a lawyer for Mitchell did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Now, why would Mitchell tell Baldwin that and then turn around and sue Baldwin? Is that because he knew what he said and now he wants to take it off of him by suing to protect himself? Wow, I'm just saying these, I'm just throwing some things out there. So in the filing, Baldwin and his lawyer go so far as to publish private text correspondence between Baldwin and Matthew Hutchins. The text showed Baldwin checking whether Matthew Hutchins still wanted to continue the conversations, given the possible legal sensitivities, and Hutchins agreeing to continue communicating despite, according to the text, the likely wishes of his legal advisors and press representative. The filing notes that Baldwin spoke at a memorial for Helena Hutchins and that later Matthew Hutchins had shared a photograph of his son with Baldwin. Later, Matthew Hutchins filed a lawsuit against Baldwin, claiming that he had recklessly shot and killed Helena Hutchins on the set. In an interview on NBC's Today Show, he said it was absurd for Baldwin to deny responsibility. Before Hutchins' appearance on the Today Show, his interactions with Baldwin had only been polite, collaborative, and at times even warm, Baldwin's filing said. In the NBC interview, Hutchins spoke in emotional terms about seeing Baldwin discuss the shooting on television. I was just so angry to see him talk about her death so publicly in such a detailed way, he said in the NBC interview, and then to not accept any responsibility after having just described killing her. You know, that's very, very difficult, I'm pretty sure. And a really, this is complex. It really is. It's a complex situation. And we just have to, I guess, to see what goes on, what updates that I receive and what's being put out there, as they come. So again, leave your comments below. Rate the video and then share the video. And thank you all again for tuning in.